Have you ever wondered why your dog always seems to know what's about to happen, even before you've said or done anything explicitly? Some mornings you've barely woken up and it's already waiting by your bedside. Other times, you haven't even grabbed your leash or put on your shoes, but it's already running to the door excitedly. Even a slight change in your pace or sitting still longer than usual will cause your dog to look at you with eyes that seem to be waiting for something. Many people think it's just instinct, but in reality, dogs spend more time observing humans than we realize. Every day, they remember tiny details that you might not even notice. The sound of keys hitting the table, the sound of a coat being taken out, the sound of a drawer being opened, or even the way you walk around the house. For them, all of these are signals that help predict what will happen next. After hundreds, even thousands of repetitions, these signals gradually form a complete picture. Your dog doesn't need to understand clocks or schedules. They just need to understand you. Interestingly, they don't just do this to know when it's time to eat or go for a walk. In the canine world, understanding humans is also a way for them to feel safe. The more they can anticipate your actions, the better prepared they are for what's coming. And that's just the beginning. Because even more amazing is that sometimes your dog notices changes in you even. Perhaps you've experienced this situation before. One day, you decide to take your dog for a walk earlier than usual. You haven't called its name, you haven't grabbed the leash, but it's already looking up at you as if it knows the plan has changed. This doesn't happen because dogs can read minds. They're simply very good at noticing small differences that humans often overlook. Behavioral studies show that dogs constantly compare what's happening to a pattern they've memorized. If you always make coffee before going out every morning, if you skip that step one day, your dog will know something is different. If you usually get home by 6 o'clock, but today it's 7 o'clock and you're still not here, many dogs will start pacing around the door or constantly looking outside. That's because their lives are built on rules. When a rule changes, they immediately notice. Interestingly, dogs don't just remember big actions. They also notice subtle changes in your voice, your pace, or how you hold a familiar object. To you, these are just unconscious details. To them, however, these are signs that help predict what's about to happen. Perhaps that's why you sometimes feel like your dog understands you better than anyone else. Not because it can read minds, but because it has spent thousands of hours silently observing your life. And when that observation continues day after day, month after month, year after year, it will notice even the smallest changes that you yourself might easily miss. But there's something even more interesting than dogs remembering your habits. They don't just observe what you do, they observe how you do it. Remember the last time you came home after a tiring day? You probably opened the door as usual, put the keys on the table, and called your dog's name. Everything seemed the same. Yet, the dog didn't rush over to play as usual. Instead, it approached more slowly, looked at you intently, and then quietly lay down beside you. What caused this change? The answer lies in subtle signals. Dogs can sense when your footsteps are slower than usual, when your shoulders are slightly slumped, or when your voice lacks its familiar enthusiasm. These changes are sometimes too subtle for others to notice, but they're clear enough for a dog that has observed you every day for years. That's also why many people feel their dog always seems to be there at just the right time. It's not because they know what's going to happen, but because they've learned to recognize the warning signs of your emotions. The longer they live with you, the more complete their map of you becomes in their minds. They know when you're relaxed, when you're in a hurry, and when it's best to just sit quietly beside them without disturbing them. Perhaps what makes the human-dog relationship so special isn't that they obey commands. Rather, after years of living together, the dog has spent almost its entire life learning to understand the subtle changes in a single person. And surprisingly, that ability even influences the decisions they make every day. If you observe carefully, you'll notice your dog rarely acts rashly when encountering something new. Before approaching a stranger, entering an unfamiliar place, or facing an unexpected sound, many dogs will do the same thing. They turn to look at you. That look lasts only a second or two, so most of us don't notice it. But for dogs, it's the most important way to gather information. They're observing your reaction to decide whether the situation is safe or not. If you smile and approach calmly, your dog will feel more confident. Conversely, if you flinch, become tense, or inadvertently pull on the leash, they'll understand that something is a cause for concern. In other words, dogs don't just learn from what you teach them, they also learn from how you react to the world around you. Every day, You are unknowingly becoming a role model for them to observe and emulate. That's why two dogs of the same breed and age, but raised by two different people, can have very different personalities. One might be very confident, while the other is always reserved. It's not because they were born that way, but because over the years, they've learned to see the world through the reactions of the person they trust most. Perhaps the most surprising thing isn't that dogs always look at you. Rather, each time they look, they're asking themselves a very simple question: can I feel safe? And the answer almost always lies in your own attitude. What's special is that even though they observe you every day, your dog doesn't use what they've learned to control you. They only use it to be near you at the right time. On days when you're very happy, they'll bring toys, run around the house, or constantly invite you to play. But there are also days when you just want to sit quietly. Strangely, many dogs also seem to become quieter. They don't demand attention, they don't urge you to go outside. They just lie nearby, sometimes resting their heads on your legs or silently watching your every move. This isn't a coincidence. After years of living with humans, dogs have learned that presence doesn't always need to be accompanied by action. Sometimes, the best they can do is simply be there. That's why many people say their dog is always there when they need them most, even without calling their name. It's worth noting that while we're often busy with work, phones, and our own plans, a significant part of a dog's life revolves around the people they love. Each day, they continue to observe, remember, and adjust their behavior to fit into your rhythm. Perhaps that's what makes the human-dog relationship so special. They don't expect you to be perfect. They simply spend their lives trying to understand you a little more than they did yesterday. And once you understand that, you'll realize there's something more important than all of this. It's not about the dog's observational skills, but about what they choose to do after they've understood you. After all that we have just discovered, you will probably realize that the most amazing thing is not the intelligence of dogs. The amazing thing is that they used that intelligence to understand a single person. Every day, your dog silently remembers little things. They know which footsteps are yours among so many people. They know your habits change with each season and each day of the week. They know when to run quickly and when to just lie quietly next to them. All of that does not come from orders or rewards. They are simply the result of thousands of hours of observation, of a life spent always focusing on the person they trust most. Perhaps we often think of ourselves as the ones teaching dogs how to live. We teach them to sit, lie down, wait or walk, side by side without pulling on the rope. But in the opposite direction, the dog is also learning about you every day. They learn to recognize what makes you happy, what keeps you busy, and what signals that you just need a little quiet today. It is a never-ending process, because every small change in your life becomes a new lesson for them. What is appreciable is that even though they understand you so well, dogs do not judge the days when you are irritable, tired, or accidentally forget them for longer than usual. The next day, when you open the door to enter the house, they still run in with excitement as if yesterday never existed. For them, the most important thing is not whether you are perfect or not, but that you have returned. So, the next time you see your dog sitting quietly looking at you from the back of the room, don't think for a moment that he's waiting for food or wants to go for a walk. Maybe it's just doing what it does every day, observing the most important person in its life. And perhaps no other creature in the world spends as much time learning to understand you as the dog living under the same roof. If you learn one thing from this video today, take a few minutes to observe your dog again. You will realize that while you only see it as a normal look for them, it is a whole Please leave a comment sharing your dog's name and let us know what action makes you feel it understands you best. Who knows? Your story will help someone else see their four-legged friend in a whole new light.